Every day, we're here for you. We get things off the ground, keeping you connected. We're here keeping you safe and secure. We keep things running smoothly and know the importance of giving back. Every day, we're here. ARA, here for you, here for good.
Welcome to Everyday Greatness, and thanks for joining us. We're coming to you from Sydney Swans HQ in Moore Park, and today I'm joined by New South Wales Swifts netballer Sophie Fawns. Sophie, welcome and thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands on which we meet, the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation. I want to pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging. One of the proudest things I can say about myself is that I am Australian. So this acknowledgement comes from my heart. I want to thank sincerely our Indigenous brothers and sisters for sharing their land with us. We're going to be chatting about how young sports stars can be shaping the culture of the teams they play for without even realising it. Being a young sports star is like being a secret agent who has to find the stop button on a bomb to stop a high-rise building from being exploded in the city. If that spy obsesses with getting to the top of that flight of stairs to the top of the building, they might trip and stumble, and the button doesn't get pushed and the whole city block is toast. If they run like a bull at a gate and try and skip 3 steps at a time, they get tired on the way or halfway up, don't get to push the button, and the whole city block becomes toast. Or they can go slow and steady with their head down and put one foot in front of the other and have faith that they'll reach the top with enough time to push the button and save that whole city block. If our guest today were a secret agent, she'd take down James Bond, Ethan Hunt, and all of Charlie's Angels with one hand tied behind her back. Sophie Fawns is a rising star of Australian netball. She made her debut with the Swifts in 2022 after an injury in the team created an opportunity for her. And she grabbed that opportunity with both hands and won a full-time contract in 2023. Being only 21 years old though, Sophie probably doesn't realise it, but she's helping to shape the culture at the New South Wales Swifts netball team. Shaping culture sounds like an old person's game, but that shaping a culture comes from the attitudes of everybody in an organisation, and it's largely Sophie's attitude that got her to where she is today. Sophie is a country girl from Wagga Wagga, and her journey to the Suncorp Super Netball League was rife with challenges. Travelling to Sydney from Wagga was tough, but add to that, during her formative years, were done during COVID-19 and the dramas that lockdowns forced. Then in the middle of her HSC, Sophie's mother Maureen died of ovarian cancer. But thriving in tough situations seems to be just how Sophie Fawns rolls. But in just concentrating on the next step in front of her, she's become a superstar of the Suncorp Super netball team, and she's doing more than she realises in shaping the culture of not just the New South Wales Swifts, but Australian netball and Australian sport more broadly. It's an absolute privilege and an honour to welcome Sophie Fawns to Everyday Greatness. Sophie, thank you again for joining us.
No worries.
So where did your passion for netball come from as a young little country kid? You weren't always that keen on playing netball as a young kid. How did you end up start playing?
Yeah, I was actually into dance when I was younger, so had no interest at all in doing netball. But I've grown up in a big family, so I've got 3 sisters, 2 older, and 1 younger. And my 2 older sisters were playing netball, and Mum sort of thought, oh, I'll just throw you into a netball team with your school friends. You might as well stay fit and stay active, try lots of things. And I was always happy to try new sports and try new things. So that's sort of how I got into it. And then, sort of got picked up from there, and my passions with the sport, I wanted to keep going, and playing other sports at the same time as well, I think was really good for me.
So when you were a young kid, just having a bit of fun, did you ever consider whether or not you were shaping the culture in a positive way in those junior clubs, or just turn up, play and have fun?
Yeah, honestly, just turn up, play and have fun. I think a lot of the teams that I joined probably now looking back were because it was good culture. Like it was really friendly people who did have a vision for what they wanted the club to be and where they wanted to see netball grow and aspire to be. So I think that probably drawed me to join those teams, especially in my junior years at the Goannas, at the MCUE Goannas. They were amazing, and the head coach there, I still keep in close contact with now. And yeah, I think I personally didn't think that I had much of a job, I guess, in growing the culture in that way. So it was just playing to have fun.
Sounds very enjoyable. So people talk up your junior representative pathway pretty significantly. You played at national and state levels, but did you ever feel like you were a legitimate selection in those teams, or did you feel like there was more of a sympathy pick as a young country kid?
Yeah, I think for my first state team when I first made it, it was me and another girl who were country kids. And at that time, I felt like they were sort of building up the pathway to get access to more country kids to see what, talent is hiding over there. I don't think I was picked as a sympathy, but I definitely felt more like I probably didn't belong because everyone else had been in the pathway, I guess, since they were really young, and I was sort of just starting to take my first steps into that world. So, and then I felt like when I was going into my Aussie programs and making into the Swifts again, I didn't feel like I belonged. It was probably a bit of imposter syndrome of like, I'm probably just picked because with circumstance, that's how I've gotten here. Probably a degree of like luck and with my being from the country, but yeah.
So today you are a little fish in a big pond as a 21-year-old kid in the Suncorp Super netball competition. But it wasn't that long ago that you were a big fish in a little pond. You were the school captain at Kooringal High School?
Yes. Yep.
When you were playing netball back in Wagga, did you have that steely-eyed, ruthless determination to play professional netball, or were you just having a crack?
I was honestly just having a crack. When I first started netball, I actually had no interest in playing professionally. Probably wasn't until I made my first state team where I got to see the Swifts play in a pre-season match, and that was probably where I fell in love with the sport and was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to be a part of the Diamonds. I want to play professional sport. And probably almost became obsessed with it a little bit. Like it became like my background on my phone, and I was doing extra training sessions without asking the coach, or had sort of started to put in little bits of extra work here and there with my netball. And then, sort of built from there that I was like, oh, yeah, this is what I want to do. But in high school, I was, I guess sort of juggling netball as well as my studies. So, it became hard to try and pick this is what I want to do for uni, but then I was like, but I want to play professional netball, and how do you juggle both, especially doing the travel as well. So I'm very grateful that at that time I had sort of been picked for the Swifts, in their radar, I guess, coming to their pre-season matches, and they were super supportive of that as well as school.
And how did your opportunity arise at the Swifts? I believe your mum got a phone call while you were in Officeworks.
Yes, we were in Officeworks shopping for school supplies, and she actually got a phone call. So that I was part of the NSWIS program, which they had just finished up to sort of split up into two academies, so the Swifts and the Giants Academy. It was basically a trial process, but the assistant coach of the Swifts at the time had rang her and said, I don't want you to come here and trial. We want you a part of our team. And I was, sort of just walking down the aisle, not thinking anything of it. I was like, can we go home now? I've got my school supplies. I'm ready to go. And mum had, we were in the car driving home, and she'd sort of said, look, there's a really big netball opportunity for you. The Swifts assistant coach just called me and she'd like you to be a part of the Swifts Academy. And for me, that was the first, I guess, big step to this becoming a reality of playing professional sport. I felt very lucky that living in the country 5 hours away from, I guess where everyone else was going to train, my first thought was sort of how am I going to do this away from everyone? It's a team sport. How do you do this by yourself? But they were really good in terms of getting me training programs, having meetings with them, or whenever I had the opportunity to go up to Sydney to be with them. And then, she also sort of grabbed me to be a part of the Swifts training squad just for the pre-season while I was in school holidays, which was incredible to be, they had just come off winning their 2019 premiership. And I'd only just turned 16 or something at the time, so definitely felt like a little fish in a big pond there, but so cool to be able to play with them now.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're a bit of a netball nerd when you were younger with phone backgrounds and gushing fangirl moments. How exciting, though, was it running out for the netball team you followed in your first game in Suncorp Super Netball?
Oh, it felt absolutely incredible. Like, I find that feeling is so hard to describe, and, you know, something that I'll never forget to be able to, I think the day before I'd sort of been called into training, and they said, you know, you're going to make your debut this weekend. And the whole week I was just filled with so much nerves, and, you know, the game's still 6 days away. And I'd sort of talked to one of the girls, and she had said, you know, like, at the end of the day, it sounds so silly, but it is a game of netball, a game of catch and throw that you've played your whole life, which I think really helped settle my nerves going into the game. But yeah, honestly, I think my palms were so sweaty I didn't think I was going to catch the ball if anyone passed it to me when I made my debut. But yeah, I think to stand back and actually see the crowd, and I don't think we had a sold-out arena, but it felt pretty big at the time. And I just couldn't wipe the smile off my face to have all those people there and, yeah, see that I actually was living out my dream.
Sounds sensational. Game of catch and throw. Sounds easy. I might have a crack. So your old primary school, Lake Albert in Wagga Wagga, recorded a video where some of your old teachers and some of the current students let you know how much of an inspiration you are. Do you feel like an inspiration, or you just think you're a normal girl done good?
I honestly feel like I'm a normal girl who's just done good. But, yeah, I find going back home or seeing those videos, or even when I do coaching sessions and reconnecting with those grassroots levels, to hear them say what an inspiration I am, I guess fills me with a lot of pride and a lot of happiness, that I can be a role model to those kids, especially, you know, growing up in the country. There's not many who make it from that area, especially in netball. So I guess to be able for them to see me do it gives them a bit of like hope and I guess inspiration that they can do it too. And I know like a lot of females in sport drop out because of like for a variety of reasons of not wanting to continue in the sport. But I think netball, with the chances of making it, like it's so slim to be picked in a team of 10 and there's only 8 teams in the world. But for, I guess, me to be an role model for those girls and that they can see that you can do it no matter where you're from is really cool.
Bloody oath. Now, you said you don't think you're an inspiration, but you hit 7 super shots in the prelim final last year against the West Coast. Now, just for people, for non-netball people, super shots are like 3-pointers in basketball. They're from a long distance, and you hit 3 in the last quarter in a really tight game. How exciting was that when you heard the crowd roar because of something you'd done?
Oh my God, it was absolutely insane. Like, I feel like you read all those sport books or you hear sports people talk about when you, and even though it wasn't our grand final, but you hear, you know, those people talk about the feeling of a grand final, that feeling of winning, and it's sort of like a drug that you just can't stop chasing. And I think that was my first taste of it, where I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the feeling and that's what I want. But no, it was incredible. The atmosphere was so cool. You know, I guess you always sort of go into those games a bit nervous. And the previous week I had, we went into extra time and I had missed my opportunity at those super shots. So really wanted to make it up the next week, and especially it was do or die to get into the grand finals. So I feel like I just went in with, you know, confidence that we've got nothing to lose. And yeah, the crowd was electric and so happy that we could be at home to play.
And there was a headline in a sports on a sports website after that game saying, "Ice in her veins, netball's teen prodigy delivers on the big stage." How big was your head after that?
Oh, well, my teammates do a good job of keeping me down to earth, that's for sure. But no, I always think in those type of games when people say to me, you know, you won that game because you shot 7 super shots and you know, you shot the last goal, which was the winning goal to win by 1. And I always think, you know, I wasn't on court for 40 minutes of that game out of 60. So, you know, it's what everyone else is doing up to then, and it's a team sport. You can't win a game of netball without all the other players around you. So, yeah, I never go in thinking that I won that game or, and again, my teammates, they're actually really good about that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I always try and keep, you know, I guess down to earth about that, because it is a team sport and it's not one individual who can make or break a game.
That is the kind of humility I love from Australian athletes. That game was incredible. That was so good to watch. Now, how would you sum up the culture at the New South Wales Swifts today?
Oh, I think the culture at the Swifts is absolutely amazing. You know, I think it's a culture that other clubs try and chase. I think sometimes we're known as a bit of a cult because of how tight-knit we are. But honestly, it's incredible. And the girls, you know, who have been there for the foundation of it, Maddie Turner and Paige Hadley, they've been there since, I think, 2015, 2016. And then, you know, everyone else has been there since 2017. So I guess I'm sort of fresh into that group. But, you know, being able to be in their space since 2020, I could see what an incredible club it is. And, you know, we have heard things from outside saying like, oh, is that, are you guys really that close? Like, how can you hang out with each other every day or live together and all that kind of stuff? And honestly, like, those girls are like my best friends. And I think the culture that we have with, you know, the values that we uphold with our integrity and our honest me, the joy that we play with is, yeah, something incredible. And, you know, there's a reason everyone wants to come to the Swifts and there's a reason no one leaves.
Fair enough. Now, I heard a rumour, and this may or may not be true, but I heard that at Swifts training, every player used to share one thing they were grateful for that day. What did the accumulation of those acts of small goodness do for the culture at Swifts netball? Yeah,
we still do that actually, like form a circle and you say one thing you're grateful for. And yeah, I think that is incredible for the culture at the Swifts. I think, you know, you could say something really small, like my housemate made me dinner, or you could say something really big of like, I just got my first contract, like so excited. And I think, yeah, just being able to take a moment to reflect before training of something that you're grateful for in the day, I think it's a lot of, that's the sort of stuff that goes, I guess, unnoticed a lot. So yeah, to be able to take that moment to reflect and really like be grateful and be present in the moment of what you have, I think contributes to the culture greatly because, you know, at the end of the day, we get to be athletes and we get to do something really cool as our job. And, you know, none of us can imagine working a 9 to 5 and grateful that we don't have to at this time. But yeah, I think it's really cool and something that everyone should do.
So culture is a very intangible thing. What are some of the practical things you guys do besides letting people know what you're grateful for? What are some of the practical things you guys do with the Swifts to help embed that culture? Yeah,
we normally do like a team camp at the start of the year, and normally it's about 3 days long, and the first day is always about culture and our values, where we want to see the club. So yeah, this year we did a lot of work you do a lot of work internally as well and sharing with your teammates, and then we do a lot of like the values we'd like to uphold. So ours were sandpit, which is basically going back to like playing with joy. You play for that little kid who started playing netball. You play for all those little kids who want to be like you one day. We had honest me, which is like just being really honest with yourself, being honest with your teammates. And then we had flood, which is like letting the emotion go. So you can, yeah, I guess be honest with that kind of stuff of how you're feeling. Like, yes, you do have to walk into the team environment and it is netball when you hit the court, but outside of that, like you are allowed to, you know, be honest that you're having a down day and, you know, everyone gets around you in that aspect. But we've also got little things like we've got like a fine system. So it's sort of like if you don't do your, like every day we have to log what we've done for training. And it's like if you miss your log, then you have to give a fine, which is like a donation to the Share the Dignity, so like pads or tampons. So that we like, I guess, uphold that sort of like professionalism in the workplace.
So let's just go back to Lake Albert for a second. How proud does it make you feel when you realise that you're one of those athletes those young kids are looking up to going, I want to be Sophie Fawns one day?
Oh, it makes me so happy, especially like going back home. I feel like in Sydney no one really recognises you except for those few individuals. But going home, it's so cool because I am from not a small country town, but one that is quite, 5 hours from Sydney. And when you walk down the street or you see like kids around that age who are looking up to you and are watching netball, and you walk past them and you sort of hear them whisper like, is that Sophie Fawn? It's such a cool feeling. And and when they're like too shy to ask for a photo or something, and I like just want to show them that like you can be an athlete but you can be really down to earth, and like I am approachable, and like I am someone they can ask questions, and it's honestly like such a nice feeling, and not one that I thought I would experience when I was just starting my netball career in terms of like grassroots netball.
So you play for the New South Wales Swifts, but you don't get recognised in the streets of Sydney. It's a good thing they changed their name from the Sydney Swifts. Yeah. So how do you think you are practically helping to shape the culture at the Swifts at the moment as an individual?
Yeah, I think this is my third year with the Swifts. My first year was a replacement player, but my second contracted year. And I think for the first 2 years, it was just about learning the ropes of, how everything works with the Swifts and with professional netball and everything like that. And I feel like this year I have been able to, find my voice and find my feet a bit more to contribute to the culture. And yeah, I find that I'm contributing in ways of I've joined new committees. I try and, speak up at training. I think there is a certain standard at training that, everyone can choose to slack off, or you can choose to, be doing extras. You can do those 1%ers of getting a bit of extra sleep or shooting your goals outside of training time. And I think for me, being able to contribute to that and hold myself accountable, I can hold others accountable. And I am able to have, no one looks at me of you're the youngest player, you're only 20 in this squad and we've been together for 10 years kind of thing. They don't look at me like that, which I, really respect, and they respect me as much as I respect them. So I think they do listen to me when I come up with leadership of we need to do this better, or how about we do this, or throw out ideas, which, very grateful for as well.
You said when you just started playing for the Swifts that you wanted to be a role model for young country kids. Do you feel like you're a positive role model for those kids?
Yeah, I would like to say that I'm a positive role model for them. I try and use my platform as much as I can to, spread awareness about things that I'm passionate about and what I'm, find really interesting. So especially with my mum's diagnosis and passing of ovarian cancer, I try and be an advocate for that on my social media platform. And I feel for young kids, social media is such a big thing nowadays. And because I do have this platform as an athlete, I would like to, try and use it to be positive, and let them know that they can reach out to me, or, at the end of the day, we are normal people. It is a game of catch and throw, and we're lucky enough that we get paid to do it. But at the end of the day, we're still normal people. So yeah.
Very true. Well, you said you're not an inspiration, but you've inspired me. Sophie Fawns, thank you so much for joining us on Everyday Greatness.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to thank Sophie. I'd like to thank the ARA Group for being our major sponsor for the 7th year in a row. Thank you to the Sydney Swans for hosting us so graciously in your headquarters. Thank you to Look Studio Australia for your technical direction. Thank you to Facet Digital for your digital marketing services. And thank you all for watching. That's the end of Season 7 of Everyday Greatness, but not the end of the feel-good factor we're putting back into the world. We hope we've helped make you proud again of just being a good example in today's ruthless society. Throughout all 7 seasons of this show, I'd like to thank specifically the Sydney Swans, and in particular Loretta Johns, for helping us to join forces this season. And thanks to all of our guests and organisations for taking part in our show this year. And lastly, I'm a superstitious Swans fan, so I don't want to jinx anything, but come on you Swans in 24. Thank you.